The Xenos, the Heretic, the Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe, all these things you'll be purifying in the Emperor's name at the behest of the Zealot in Warhammer 40,000 Darktide. In this video today, I want to give you a fun build for the Preacher focused on keeping you mobile in combat and hopefully keeping you alive throughout the duration of your playthrough. If you've not seen my Veteran Sharpshooter video, the way I'm going to structure this is by going over the build and the feat selections first. You can find the picture of that build in the description, so you don't even need to finish the video if you don't want to. Then I'll give you a nice leveling build for the Zealot, followed by some weapon choices for the Endgame build, and I'll conclude the video by giving you some closing thoughts over some gameplay of the build. I'm also going to put some videos in there in between the leveling portion and the build that show off certain aspects of the build and how they kind of synergize together. You can quickly navigate to each subject that interests you the most using the chapters in both the description and the timeline. If you end up enjoying the video though, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. I cannot tell you how much that helps out any content creator you watch, and I'll be covering a ton of Darktide with a lot of build, weapon, and general gameplay guides all coming out in the next week or so. I'll be streaming on Twitch with the same username I have here on YouTube, and I'll be streaming on YouTube. Find that in the description as well. Let's get started on my Zealot build for Warhammer 40,000 Darktide. Loading to the game, we have our Zealot Preacher build right here, and it's spicy, it's nice, it's neat, it's lovely. And I'm going to go ahead and explain everything here, but I'm going to go ahead and turn off all these and we'll go through them right now. Some things to focus on here are our iconic abilities. We have Swift Exorcism, which is going to give us 10% at melee attack speed. We have Martyrdom, which is going to give us a +5 damage for each 15 missing health, and then Until Death. Every 90 seconds taking damage that would otherwise kill you, you gain invulnerability for 5 seconds. So we're really going to be hinging upon Martyrdom here. Not in the way that a lot of other builds might be going. Zealot Preacher, I think what you're going to find with some builds are builds that run very low health. Because basically, if you look at this, for every 15 health, for each 15 health missing, max 3 stacks, you're going to get 5 damage. So basically, if you're missing 45 total health, then you're going to get 15 total damage increased. We're going to increase this stack up to 6. That's going to allow us to double the amount of damage bonus, but we're going to have to, of course, have more health missing as a total of 90. I'm sure some builds will push you way down to like that red line, right? And that's kind of common course. We've seen that in Vermintide. I personally don't like running that way because I'm not that good at the game. So I'm not going to lie to you there. So let's go through our level 5 feat to start off with enemies within, enemies without. This is going to give us 7.5% toughness per second while within 8 meters of any enemies. With the Preacher, you are going to be in close combat a lot. This makes sense to me. Why not go with it? And I've said this in every single one of my videos that I've put out for Darktide, but remember, toughness is an infinite resource, whereas health is a finite resource. You have to find ways to replenish health. Your toughness will regenerate on its own, and you might as well keep it topped off so you do not jump into your health, especially if you're redlining it. You do have these other two things like replenish more health on melee kill or toughness damage reduction on critical hit. The crit hit one, you have to really build into it and it requires a lot of gear, so I don't like that. And this, while seemingly good, replenishing more toughness on melee kill, it's better for a beginner's leveling build when you're not dealing with higher difficulties. In higher difficulties, you're not fighting as much as defending and blocking and pushing. So this gives you toughness without having to be aggressive. You can be blocking and pushing and still gain toughness, which is a really big bonus of this feat. Into level 10, we have Bloodletting, Retribution, but I'm going with Punishment here. Attacks that hit 3 or more enemies grant 10% damage. It's not there in this build. This is a pre-build to the actual beta build, so the one coming out on the 17th, so tomorrow by the time this was recording. So this will probably say damage in the actual build, but this will give you 30% damage after all 3 stacks, and all you have to do is hit 3 or more enemies. Very easily done with cleave damage, and at max stacks gain uninterruptible. So it's a very nice ability to kind of get your bros up or keep you in the fight for longer. Into our level 15. Oh, and the reason I haven't gone with Bloodletting here is because I'm not focusing on causing bleeding in this build. If you were causing bleeding, this is a really, really good ability, but there seems to be not a lot of reliable ways to cause bleeding just yet unless you get it on certain perks, on certain items, and so on and so forth. A little more gear dependent is what I'm trying to say. And this ability, Retribution, relies on you being really low health. And like I said, I'm not that good, so I don't like to redline my character like that. Into feat level 15, we're going to go with Benediction, which is plus 15% toughness damage reduction, which stacks with our Emperor's Will as a 7% toughness damage reduction for allies in coherency. So anyone who's in coherency to you is going to get 21% toughness damage reduction. I like this a lot because, as I've said so many times, toughness is very important, especially in those latter difficulties. Holy Fervor, this is great and all, but it's too dependent on me being around my allies in coherency for them to get the power bonus. I'd rather they got survivability. Might be better for lower levels when I'm leveling up, but not at the top end. And using Chastise the Wicked replenishes 20% toughness to allies in coherency. With Chastise the Wicked, you are not going to be in coherency a lot. This is going to push you out of coherency or back into coherency, and I'll explain that when we get to level 30. Moving on to our next one, we're going to go with Thy Wrath Be Swift. You no longer get stunned by enemy attacks. When you take damage, gain 30% movement speed for 2 seconds. So this is nice because it allows you to get in and out of a really bad situation quickly. You get 2-second burst of speed. If your Chastise the Wicked is down and you cannot move out of combat because you have your heavy movement ability gone, this at least gives you a nice little burst to leave combat, and I really, really like this. Also, you're not going to get stunned by any melee attack. Again, cementing your mobility and keeping you in and out of the fray as you so wish. I like this a lot. And remember, this is not just toughness or health damage, it's just damage, period. I like that again. Faith Restores All is a good alternative here if you want to get... after taking damage, you gain 25% of the damage taken over 5 seconds. So it's a nice way to recover damage, but in higher difficulties, you will get chunked out in health. It's like 4 or 5 hits after your toughness is gone and you just are dead. So the chunks of damage do not get restored fast enough for Faith Restores All in a higher difficulty scenario, in my personal opinion. Holy Revenant is, again, this is a redlining ability. I'm not really down with redlining. Moving into 25, we're going to go with Honor the Martyr. Martyrdom has 6 max stacks. So now remember, this is going to give us that 3 max stacks, bringing us up to 6 now. So we're going to get a nice, juicy plus 30 damage out of this, which is really good. Is that true? Yes. quick math. So you're going to get a nice, juicy damage out of this if you drop in health. And really dropping 90 health is not that bad. If I were to take a look at my character, I've got 200 health, so having 110 health, while kind of intense, is really not terrible. It is kind of borderline on the red line, but you don't need to rely on it. It's just the ability to pull a benefit from it. If you do not want to worry about martyrdom stacks at all, a really good alternative here is Rising Conviction. In fact, I almost went with this as the permanent slot here, but I really like the damage bonus of martyrdom and using that iconic ability. But this is still going to give you 4 damage for 5 seconds on hit, just any hit. So this is a 20% damage bonus. It's probably a better option, to be totally honest with you. This was just me trying to leverage this martyrdom capability into a really fun kind of way. You're basically getting more damage bonus. It's just not a perpetual bonus, because martyrdom, if you're missing 90 health, it doesn't dissipate. It doesn't leave. You just constantly have that damage bonus. This, you have to ramp up into it. So it's a slow building burst to your DPS versus this is a persistent one. So that's your kind of difference there. And our level 30 ability is Purge the Wicked, which is Chastise the Wicked now has 2 charges. Absolutely massive here because I want to be able to jump in and out of combat very easily. Good alternatives would be something like the Invocation of Death. Melee crit hits reduce the cooldown of Chastise the Wicked, but you have to build into melee crits for this to really work. And then you also have Fury of the Fury of the Faithful. 20% attack speed for 5 seconds on using Chastise the Wicked. I like this and all, but I'd rather just do Chastise more or have Chastise up more often than having an increase to my attack speed. And that's just a personal preference for when it comes to how I approach the class. So now that we've gone over what that endgame build looks like, how would I do this from a leveling standpoint? So starting us off here at level 5 for the leveling portion of this build, I'd go Purify in Blood just because I'm going to be just swinging so much more than I'm going to be defending in the first 2 difficulties. Do keep in mind though, even though I say that, you should really be dodging and blocking and block pushing and follow through attacking even in those first 2 difficulties, because you don't want to build bad habits coming into difficulties 3 and 4 where you're just going to get punished if you don't have those ingrained in your muscle memory. Moving into level 10, Bloodletting here. just to kind of really ramp up that damage. You could still stick with punishment, which is really good. Attacks that hit 3 or more enemies grant 10%. This is what we have in our endgame build. Go with either one, really. This is just kind of really cool to get really juicy melee crits, and it's not that hard to get bleeding, especially if you have a veteran sharpshooter you can synergize with. So I'll just go with that for, we'll do this for now. As far as this one goes, Holy Fervor is good because you're getting the power to allies and coherency, but I find that it's only for 5 seconds, and it requires you to gain stacks of martyrdom. I'd rather just go with his survivability at this level. Level 20, I'm not going to go Thy Wrath Be Swift. I'm actually going to go with Faith Restores All. After taking damage, you gain 25% of the damage, because remember, like I said, in that sub level 3 difficulty, you can actually have this replenish the damage that you're taking very easily. You're not getting chunked apart with damage so fast in level 3 or level 4. Level 4's damage comparison to 3 to 4 in the difficulty is so huge that you'll find that this just doesn't keep up with restoring. So I definitely think this in difficulties 1, 2, borderline 3, this can really be helpful. Now at this point, you could probably jump into the end game build, but I think that Rising Conviction until you're level 30 is a really good bet, depending upon the difficulties that you're tackling. If you're starting to hit 3 or 4, don't go with this maybe, or go with it if you want to use this for the end game build. But just stack up that damage. You might as well. Even then, you could just go with a build like this and be totally fine. But this is a good way to kind of approach leveling. And again, like I've said for all of my videos here, please approach the game with not a min-maxing mindset. Play every single bit of the Zealot. Try every single one of these out, because this is me respecking right now. I'm just choosing random things. You don't have to pay any money to do it. You don't have to go spend gold or anything. You can do this in between missions. Try each one of these feats out to find out the playstyle that clicks with you the best for Zealot, because the Zealot is very, very fun, and I think it's kind of way too under the radar. It's my favorite class personally, and the caffeine is really hitting me. As you can see, my speech is ramped up, but still my point being here that have a lot of fun, build this how you want, and you'll enjoy it and get a better end game build that maybe works for you, that's custom built off of the stuff that I made for you. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the weapon choices and how this build kind of comes together. So let's show off 2 or 3 abilities really quick that are part of this build. We're going to go into character again, take a look at our feats one more time. We're going to show off how punishment works here, and I'm going to give you an idea of how Rising Conviction stacks into this. This is, again, different than the build that we talked about. It's an alternative, but I want to show you how this kind of clicks in. Remember, I have to hit 3 or more enemies to gain 10% for 5 seconds. 10% damage, and that stacks 3 times. So we're going to get this to stack, and we're also going to get 5 or so stacks here depending on the respawn, and I'll show you Chastise the Wicked, jumping in and out of combat. So we're going to do big cleaving swings. You can see we're already at 5 stacks here because we've hit 5 things, and we're going to keep that damage going. Oh, so we're at 3 stacks of, can we get it? Yeah, we got it. It's harder because these guys are not respawning as fast. Oh, come on. Yeah, we're at 3. Oh, damn, we missed it. But we're at 5 stacks of the plus 20% damage now. And we're getting those, the 3 stacks here. So we're really ramping our damage up between these 2 feats. And it's really spicy. So we're getting that 30% damage from the punishment, and then we're getting the 50% damage, or I'm sorry, the 20% damage here from Rising Conviction. That's a 50% total damage bonus between these 2. It does require you to constantly be in combat and swinging and hitting things. It's why the martyrdom one I like a little bit more, just because you're getting those damage stacks. But keep this in mind here. This is percentage damage increase across these 2 feats. This is flat damage bonus. So the martyrdom bonus here of plus 15 damage for having 45 missing health is going to be then increased by the percentage bonus that you're going to get from punishment and from Rising Conviction if you go that route. Alternatively, if you go with this, you have the martyrdom bonus of a plus 30 damage, then getting you an additional 30% damage from punishment here. So this is how you're going to want to frame this is, do you want to have a higher base damage that it then has a percentage increase on top of it? Or do you want to have a lower base damage with a higher percentage increase on top of it? What that kind of looks like from a percentage standpoint here is, if you're looking at those 6 max stacks, that's going to bring you up to 30 with 30% bonus. That's going to bring you up to 39 total damage increase between martyrdom and punishment, versus you're going to have 15 total damage here from Martyrdom, plus the 50%, that's 7.5. So that brings you up to 22.5 increase in damage. So you can see that this route actually results in more damage. This route results in a little bit less damage, of course, but you're not having to drain your health. So that's why I'm showing you both of these stances and how they're going to be basically a 15% damage bonus. Different, but it just depends upon, do you want to lose 90 health or lose 45 health to get those damage bonuses. Now, Chastise the Wicked here. I've gone through this a couple times, but Chastise the Wicked is done not by simply pressing F or holding down F to select our target. You just bump into them. What you want to do here is activate, if it's a eviscerator, a chain axe, a chain sword, a thunder hammer, you hold down F, activate, hold down left click, release F, and you just go right you just go right through and just chop the guy down. You're going to get your 25% crit chance bonus. If you're already in combat, you're going to stack all those bonuses you've had from killing waves of... Yes, a grenade indeed. You're going to get those stacks from hitting enemies in stacks of 5, stuff like that. So this will have really, really punishing ways to approach it. And you can really swap this weapon out here. Let's go to my juicy thunder hammer. And this thing will pretty much one-shot everything. So let's go ahead, hold down F, activate, hold down left click. Dead. 3,100 damage. This is level 4 difficulty. So this is a juicy way to do things. And if you get 2 alts in a row here, because we have Chastise the Wicked ×2, we can hold down F, activate, and do it again. And this guy's going to take, I guess, just one hit. And you hit some guy in the butt hard enough, anyone will die, I suppose. It should have taken 2 hits for the Mauler, and I'm sorry, for the Crusher and the Mauler. But you can see how a lot of these build options come together in a really juicy way to give you a lot of damage potential for the Preacher. Let's go into some weapon choices. As far as weapon choices go, you really have the entire repertoire open to you. Going through the range weapons, I just love the bolt gun. Indie Pride and I are really big believers that this makes the Preacher more well-rounded, having a lot of very heavy punching power into range and being able to pop a lot of specialist or elite units with headshots very quickly and easily. But you also have the glorious flamer available to you, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to use it. It is so satisfying. Let's take a look right now, because it can melt through hordes so fast, so quickly. And this is at difficulty 4, so you can really kind of rip through them fast, and you can have these little bursts here unless you aim down sights. God, it's so satisfying to see this thing brought to life. But you've got that option for you. Another really good one too, you can use the combat shotgun. I find that the reload on it is a little long, and the amount of damage that it does is still strong, but I just love the auto pistol. It's a really, really nice option here. You get a lot of really good damage out in that mid-range, and I'm just a huge fan of it. I'm a huge fan of it. So that's your range options here for your, what's this guy called? The Preacher. You can use stuff like the auto gun, las gun. Just make sure that if you do something like the las gun, you're really using it only to pop specials that you just can't reach. Your big job is to use your alt to get in there and kill something maybe that the other party can't, or you're in a location that you can go in, you can burst it, and you can leave. Because remember, your alt replenishes your toughness, so you have that kind of vulnerability to move in and out of combat. When it comes to the primary, I am just stuck on the Thunder Hammer. It is so goddamn good, especially because if you look at its damage profile, the heavy attack are wide swiping cleaves left and right. The overhead on the light attack is still really good, with followed by a cleave. These are really great capabilities, and I just love the ability to charge this thing, use my ult, and basically one hit nearly everything in the game that is not a monstrosity or a boss. Another really solid option though is the Eviscerator. I personally love it too, because I like the damage profile on the Eviscerator. It is really nice for its actual combo. It does some pretty good big sweeping hits. You saw me using this against the Poxwalkers and Dregs over here to just really stack up a lot of hits on it. I really enjoy this weapon. And then you also get the ability to activate it and solve or something. I think the Thunderhammer gets a little bit more out of it, but still, the Chain Axe is another really good option here. But between those three, it's kind of where I would stick in the beginning of the game. I would use a tactical axe or any of the swords. The heavy sword is also a really good option, but in the very beginning, those are the three better options when it comes to melee weapons. And I think you really can't go wrong with any of those. So in closing, you'll see that this build is not that red lining type of build that I feel will probably become the meta of the Preacher. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I think that that red lining type of build becomes almost like a gate for the Preacher, where if you're not really competent with the game awareness, and the class, it becomes a much higher barrier of entry. And I find that that's just not as fun. The Preacher can be played in so many fun different ways, and it's actually a stupidly diverse and very well-rounded class if you use the right weapon and feat combinations. In this kind of build here, you'll see that this character is a lot more durable, but a lot more mobile. Doesn't maybe do the top end potential damage that the Preacher can do, but I'm in no way upset with the damage that this build delivers to the table. You saw me using a Thunderhammer on difficulty 4, one-shotting elites. Remember, elites are anything that kind of is already placed into the game. These specialists are things that spawn in. So your bombers, your trappers, your flamers, your what are they called? The mutants, the guys who charge at you, the poxhounds, those are all specialists. Elites are the things that are already kind of statically there. So I find that this class is going to be, or this build is going to be a little bit more forgiving, especially to people that are a little on the fence about the Preacher. It seems that the Zealot is the least hyped class. Most people want to play the Veteran, followed by the Psyker or the Ogryn nearly tied, and the Preacher being the lowest on the totem pole. But I think that once the game gets going and people really can see what the Preacher can do as far as having an auto toughness button that immediately replenishes your toughness, and having really good damage profile to be either ranged or in melee, they're really going to enjoy this class. Maybe it's got the ranged counterpart that they wanted from a Psyker, or the melee counterpart that they wanted from a Psyker, with the ability to burst down specials and elites like the Psyker can. Or maybe it gives them the melee portion that they wanted in a Veteran Sharpshooter, with the ability to take down elites and specials like the Veteran Sharpshooter can. Everyone's really good at taking down those specials across those three humanoid classes. It just depends on how you want to do it. So I think that the Preacher is really going to be enjoyable for you. If you're new to the game and you want to play a really heavy melee-centric character, try and focus more on the durability side, less on that redlining capabilities, and I think you'll have a lot of fun with this build. If you have any questions though about the game, your build, maybe you're stuck on your build and you really don't know where to go, and you're really hitting a wall, that's okay in any class that you play. If you come here from a different class saying, maybe I'll try the Preacher out, let's see what this guy has to say, keep with your class. The first 10 to 5, 10, 15 levels of every class feel really underwhelming and very difficult, especially if you're brand new to this series in general. So try not to get discouraged. Just stick with it. Push through those 10, 15 levels. And once you start getting feat synergies and you start getting better weapons unlocked, and you understand the flow of combat in the game, you're going to enjoy not just the class you're playing, but every class in the game. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.